Are we recording?
Yes.
Are we live? Hi, everybody. Welcome to Star Citizen Not So Live. I'm your host, Jared Huckabee, with a special pre-recorded take 2 of our Making Missions 2 Q&A. I'm going to start over again. No, I'm not. We're going to keep going. Joining us on the show this week are two members of the esteemed mission design team, Elliot and Nick. Elliot and Nick, say hi.
Hi.
Hello. And Nick's not a part of my team. I don't want that guy.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay, I'm sorry. Nick's on the economy team, and
Yeah.
Elliot's on the mission design team.
I've got my own Nick.
That's right. You've got Nick Urko, which we met.
There's enough Nicks to go around.
Yeah.
Yeah, which we met on yesterday's ISC, which went out, and hopefully you've all watched it because it contains important information for what we're going to talk about today. I say yesterday, but we're recording this on Wednesday, so for us it's really tomorrow, but for you who's watching it, it's Wednesday, and that's time travel. Okay, so a couple of weeks ago, we had Making Missions 2, where we invited Yorit and Nick on. They sat here and they showed you the process of making these new cargo missions that are going live with Alpha 324. We talked a bit about EVR and how they plug into the upcoming quantum system or star sim or whatever the heck we're calling it now and stuff like this. Then we were meant to follow up last week. We took some questions. Last week we had some technical issues, just won't go into it. We're here now with a pre-recorded show. We're going to jump right into the questions and stop wasting any more time because with the two guests that we have, we're probably going to go over an hour. We'll find out. So we have taken the questions from you, the Star Citizen person, Star Citizen citizen. See, this doesn't get any better when it's pre-recorded. And we put them to Elliot and, don't look at me like that. We put them to Elliot and Nick, and they picked the ones they want to answer. So let's start off right off the bat. What kind of containers will hauling missions use, and how can I see that? Will I have to load 101 SCU boxes, or what?
No, you won't have to load. Well, you won't have to load 101 1SCU boxes. You might have to load 6 1SCU boxes. But the missions are designed so that the SCU, the amount of SCU and the size of the box is based on the ideal ship for the grade of the mission, so that you can do the mission in one run if you have the appropriately sized ship.
So the ideal ship for the grade of the mission. So you're saying that each of these missions are designed with a certain size or scope of ship in mind?
That's right.
When we go over them and we're planning out the grades and the difficulties, we will look to go, right, this one is one that we class for, say, a caterpillar. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to have a caterpillar to do it. It's just kind of the grading that we do. So we'll go caterpillar, that means this much SCU. You could do it in a Pisces if you want. It's just going to take quite a bit longer, and you might have to leave the back door of your Pisces open with a 32 SCU stuck out of it, but that's how you want to play the game.
And
sure.
somebody
you have to
will.
put a flag on it. Got to
Yeah,
put a
so-
flag on it too, otherwise it's illegal.
Don't say that unless you're going to let them do that. Don't put that idea in their heads, because then
Okay,
they'll
you
just
don't have
ask
to
for
put a
it.
flag on it.
You can't put a flag on it. You're not going to let them.
You shouldn't put a flag on it.
You dug yourself a hole, Nick. This is all you.
Yeah, Wednesday shows, man. If you thought Friday shows were weird. So how are we communicating to that to the player? That this mission is designed for a specific size or scale of ship. How will players know what the ideal is supposed to be?
So, it's all in the contract details. So before, we just used to have the description on the contract, and we used to have to expose a lot of information to it, and it always kind of restricted the granularity of the information we can do. With the cargo hauling update, we got the ability to pre-generate all of the objectives. So when you go in your mobiGlas to accept the contract, you'll see the description, which is the narrative for the mission on the left, and on the right you'll see all of the your delivery itinerary, and you'll see every single commodity, and you'll see the amount of cargo you have to haul. Now, as for the specific sizes of boxes, unfortunately at the moment that isn't something we can display, so you won't actually know that it's going to give you a 16 like a 16 SCU box and give you 4 of them to meet the sort of max you've got to haul. But that is somewhere we want to go for the future.
Okay. Kind of goes into the next question here. Can we pick the size of the box that the cargo hauling mission will spawn? Doesn't sound like it.
No, not currently. It's something that we'd like to get to on the design side, on the mission design side, because it gives more ability for the player to pick and know how they fit. You know, say you're doing some emergent economy trading with your commodities, right? And you've got space for, you know, a little bit of extra cargo, and you're going to a same place. You've spotted a mission that goes to that place where you're going to sell your goods emergently. You might be like, right, well, if they was all in like 2 SCU boxes, I could fit more in. So we want to get to that direction.
Put them on someone's lap.
Yeah.
Okay.
Carry them.
I think we talked about this on SCL. The question says, can we use our own commodities or commodities that we have found to complete these hauling missions?
No.
No.
No. Not like, so the hauling missions as they are, these are tracked contracted goods. So this company has already own these commodities and they're asking you to transport them from A to B. However, what that open question is kind of alluding to is more resource gathering missions. So we will have missions where you are asked to just get, 10 copion horns, or this refinery just wants X amount of, raw iron, and the player can get them by their own means. For example, you could, go mine it yourself. You could pirate it and use it for the mission and things like that. So in the future, we will have missions that allow you to get the commodities via your own means.
And you just go to Wish and get the Wish version of whatever you're supposed to be delivering on the cheap.
On the cheap.
Okay, but not in 324.
No.
All right. How will players earn reputation and progress in the hauling missions in the guild?
So there is the current hauling missions are actually using the same reputation system that's in the game at the moment. So similar to the mercenary missions. So you see a progression in Delphi like you do right now. In the future, there is a whole new system coming, which I think we mentioned in SCL is being designed by Luke Presley, and economy's been involved in that as well, because EVR handles any kind of reward, whether that's UBC or rep or whatever it is. So that will be a bit like EVR is holistic for UBC. It will also be holistic for reputation, but that's not for 324. That's coming later.
We're using some. I mean, it's no secret we're not always the best at naming things, but we're using cargo missions and hauling missions interchangeably. Do we have Are we just calling them all hauling missions, or are they calling them cargo missions, or?
This is something I know we're going to get into a bit later, but essentially the simplest form we look at it is there's hauling and there's courier. Hauling is large volume moving of commodities, and courier is meant to be like you're the Amazon guy, right? You've got maybe 5 boxes, but they're all personal. They've all been directly requested by someone. So they're the sort of 2 delineations we're going with. And
they're all within cargo missions.
Yeah, they're all within sort of the delivery general scope of it. So there's delivery, hauling, courier.
Okay. Hey, David, we should change that graphic on ISC since it hasn't gone out yet. So the work in progress box is cargo missions. We should change it to hauling missions. And that's what you get on a pre-tape.
Thanks, David.
Let's see. Next question says, well, it's a statement. Don't make a theme park, CIG. Oh, okay. So obviously making missions and everything, it's essentially adding rails to what's supposed to be a sandbox game. This is a forever consideration for you. We hope that CIG don't just put all the gameplay on rails and stop us from making their own emergent opportunities. There's not actually a question there. That's just a statement.
It's just a statement, yes. So I guess the person doesn't like theme parks. Theme parks are meant to be fun, so I guess you don't want a fun game, right? No. No, how we see missions is missions are, and I know people will take the piss currently, but missions are meant to be more narrative-driven stories in the game. But we also use them as a vehicle to introduce players to the more emergent aspects of the world. So the hauling missions are meant to show players a connection of commodities between locations, which then, like, now they know that this place trades in iron and this place wants iron, and they can look at the commodity terminals and goes, well, that sells for this much, and that buys for this much, I could actually make a profit if I ignore the mission and just do it without the mission. That's what it's there for. It's to expose a gameplay route. It's something we found very successful when we first did salvage. And Thorsten Lehman loves me for this, but when we first did salvage, and we put out the hull scraping, in its first release, we saw some people play it, but it wasn't as much of a boom. But when we released the missions, which acted as an easy way to show the players the salvage gameplay, we saw a huge spike in people playing salvage, and that's just generally how we look at missions. It's to introduce players to the sandbox nature of our game easily, so then if they wish to break away from missions, just start doing sandbox things, they can.
And I mean, you don't need a mission to ask someone to escort you either, so it's not like they have to have an escort mission. So if you're thinking about the balance between missions and emergent gameplay, then hauling missions with an escort is a good example of those two things working together.
Gotcha. Different types of cargo are always fun. This next question says, are alternative forms of cargo, things like hazardous waste, radioactives, we used to have some of that, packed up vehicles, time-sensitive stuff, small stuff, data, are all of this still in the cards?
Yeah. Data running is its own beast. I'm not going to touch that. But all of the other commodities, definitely so. The future idea is we want these like kind of like certifications, gradings, where you have to sort of show that you can haul radioactive goods or haul livestock, and look after it appropriately to then sort of unlock those missions. But yeah, no, that is the plan. That's something we want. We want you to be able to haul these different things because they all introduce their own challenging, right? Whereas a simple box mission from A to B might be quite simple, and you think, well, I just sit in my ship. When you're like, right now, I've got to haul livestock, the atmosphere of your ship's got to be right so they can breathe the correct mix of oxygen, air, and nitrogen, things like that. You've got to make sure that you feed them, stuff like that. That's the idea of what we go towards. Things like if we have perishable goods like food, you've got to make sure that it stays cold so that they or frozen. You make sure that their crate stays at a certain temperature so it can prolong the lifespan of the food so it doesn't go rotten by the time you get to your destination. Things like that.
Okay. Makes sense. You're gonna put animals in boxes?
It's quite possible. It might be that, I mean, I can't. It'd make my life a hell of a lot easier if I just slap a box on, make it.
Instead of trying to hurt animals on your ship?
Yeah, instead of, yeah. So, like, here's a box. It's got a cow in it. I make the box go moo every now and then, and the box moves.
Although, oh gosh, forcing Chad McKinney to make animals stick to the cargo grid, that could be fun.
That's why I'm glad he lives in America and I live in England, because he'd try to kill me.
Okay.
If I just come to him with that request.
Will hauling missions or any missions ever make use of ground vehicles?
Hopefully, yeah. It's something that we've talked about, and it's something that we'd like, the ability to go between sort of two outposts. But there's a lot of things required to make that a good experience, along with the aspect of why would you do it? Like there will be people who just like, I want to drive ground vehicle, I'm going to do a delivery between A and B, but then you'll get economy Nick here going, but it's not efficient, you're not earning the money in the best way, you're taking all your time.
I think the principal concern you might have is, yeah, but what about all of that orbital bombardment that is slowing down your convoy?
Yeah, potato.
I need you. I need you like center yourself in the frame. You're bouncing off, and you're on. I'm just going to do the show over here. You do the show on the left. I'll do the show on the right. Switch back to Elliot. How's that look? There we go. Oh, you're centered more. Hold on. Kind of off center. There we go. Pre-tape's no better.
Pace.
Cargo is big. You mentioned that there's the hauling missions, and then the courier missions were just smaller boxes, smaller quantities of boxes. Would you ever consider something so small that you would carry it on you, like in one of your pouches, a real like secret agent kind of thing, where only you know you have it. There's no outward indicator you're carrying it, and people have to hunt you down.
So that's like those things need transporting, obviously, but the hauler missions are specifically for the large scale logistics. So the hauling missions tend to generate the kinds of quantities that need to be transported at large scale. But like you have said, and like Elliot has just said before, different commodities, different items could be transported with different types of logistic mission, let's call them.
Yeah, definitely. It's something that courier missions would definitely tie into, because they are more personal requests. So that'd be a courier type thing.
Player contract. You got more?
Oh, sorry,
Go ahead.
Jared. I was just thinking, one of the main questions that came up was just because we have a large ship, or just because we have been doing hauling missions for a while, we've got a lot of reputation, we've been doing this gameplay for a while, doesn't mean that we wouldn't still want to take more risky, high value, smaller volume missions. Is that going to be what happens in hauling? So that won't necessarily be what happens in the hauling career, specifically because of the volumes in hauling, but that doesn't mean that those kinds of high risk, small volume, high value commodities won't need trading and won't have their own place in logistics.
Okay. Player contracts and job boards. Will players ever be able to set up contracts to have cargo or items hauled by other players?
So we do have player beacons, and I know what that current state of that is, but that is
it, Nick?
a system.
What is the current state? Go ahead, admit it.
Worked perfectly.
It's a feature, but that's something which we. It's like the economy. It's
non-existent. Oh, sorry. Sorry, carry on, Nick.
Okay.
Yeah, this is pre-recorded, and if that still makes it into the show, know that I don't value my job. That'll probably still be in the show. I mean, it's just look. We're just going to leave that in because I've said it before. We have the same conversations you do, the same exact things you guys talk about, the same concerns that you have. We say all the same things, just 12 weeks before you do. We recognize that some of these systems still have work to do, still need love. I'm going to ask Elliot about box missions, so don't you worry. So don't take our candor about it as us not caring about it or us not thinking it's important. It's just there's a very long list of things that we're doing for Star Citizen that we still have to do, that we still have to fix, and that's just us being very aware of it. And sometimes you just have to kind of go, yeah, we know.
If we don't, we'd all be depressed, right?
Yep.
Gotta have fun to make fun.
So just take it as us being like you. And we understand it. We're aware of it. It's on the list. And just all we can ask for is patience while we try to get to everything. All right. Continue with whatever we were talking about. I've forgotten now. Player contracts.
So to answer the question, Elliot, the beacon system is something which provides for players to contract other players, and it's a system we will be looking to expand upon in the future. And personally, I think that this side of the economy is fundamental, given that we are having a hybrid economy. So player-driven systems.
Yeah, that Space Tomato, clip it. Fundamentally said.
Yes, yeah, it really is. I don't think I've been, like I said, I'm going on 10 years here now. I've had 100 conversations with Tony and with everybody else who's involved with this stuff, and I cannot overstate how important the player-driven aspect of our economy is to us. It's just things like the player beacon system and stuff. It's just waiting for the eye of development, Sauron, to turn its eye back to it. Resources to free up, new technologies to work on. A lot of this stuff, it's like, you don't want to put in a whole bunch of work when you know this other work that you also have to do is going to invalidate that. So we're forced to kind of sit there and grin and bear certain aspects of this while we're waiting for other new technologies and other new works to come online. But it is, fundamental is a really good word for that, Nick. Thank you. All right. And we'll follow that up with dynamic mission generation. So we go from the players making it to the Star Sim and Quantum making it. Dynamic mission generation, Star Sim / Quantum, was always supposed to dynamically generate missions in response to the activities of players and Quanta. Is this still the plan?
So the short answer is yes. And when we are ready to talk more about that, we absolutely will. You will be the first to know about it. And I mean, the reason we're doing all this now is because we don't want you to have to wait any longer for this kind of gameplay. But everything we're doing now, even though we're doing it manually, we'll be able to plug into the implementation of StarSim when it's ready. So we're not wasting work, but we just wanted to get this gameplay in so that you don't have to wait any longer.
Right.
But yes, the short answer is yes.
You can make a good point. All that work to spec out StarSim, to design it, to figure it out, that's there. So we can so while it's still hardening and becoming ready, we can sit there and say, okay, well, this plugs into this plugs into this. We just fill in our own values based on, you know, like the spreadsheets and stuff that you showed on SCL last week. And so we can still build missions without having to wait for it. And then when it's ready, plug right in. What happens to the hauling mission that nobody takes? That's a good question.
Elliot?
I like that question.
You want to answer that? I think
mean,
there's
it
a
can.
timeout, right?
Yeah. So missions as they currently are, they generate based on eligibility and then they stay around for an amount of time. So if there's a cargo hauling mission, it will stay around for, I don't know, like maybe 30 minutes. And if no one accepts it, it shuts itself down and we'll try generate a new one. There might be changes to that are in the future with maybe StarSim that Nick might want to talk about or might not want to, depending. But right now they just shut down and then they'll regenerate after a period of time.
So yeah, what missions are available and what opportunities they present to players is a balance that we're going to have to judge as we go with StarSim, because it is a hybrid economy, and that means that player-driven is really important. But we don't want parts of the universe to be abandoned or to lack input if there aren't enough players there. So it will be player driven, but it will be system maintained.
Gotcha. I feel like the timer question was probably a question more for Yorit. Yeah, Yorit couldn't join us here this week. He had a well-deserved and well-scheduled vacation this week. So when we had to reschedule last week's show, it was really disappointing that he wasn't going to be able to do this. But we didn't want to wait any longer. So
I mean, I've got the data open. I can give you a time, but I don't want to because then everyone's going to hyper focus on. You said it'd take 13 minutes.
yeah. Oh my gosh, a number early in development that never
Could
changes.
you imagine? No.
You said, you know, while you were talking, I was imagining like us creating this terrible version of Clippy that shows up. Hey, you want to do a hauling mission? There's hauling missions available. Although that's sort of what that toast that kept forever showing up. The center. We fixed that in 323, didn't we? The constant thing that.
No, that's on my team to fix, and I'm trying to make cargo work, Jared. Right? The constant pop-ups are like down here for me. I had missions that don't complete, man.
That's right. That's right. We do have a Clippy. It's just not nearly as entertaining. There really is no difference between the pre-recorded and the live shows. We just go. Will we get missions in landing zones?
Yes, and yes and no. Yes in the future, no right now. The performance isn't great in landing zones, as I'm sure many players are aware right now. We used to have some missions that were in landing zones for those veterans who can remember.
3.2.
Or if people. Yeah, like in like 3.2. I'm sure Salty Mike will be sat there going, I remember that, and start moaning about something else. Yes, we used to have them, but they used to take like 5 minutes to spawn, and that's because the server is like a box gets put in a spawn queue, and then if people are doing stuff like I'm trying to buy some, I'm trying to spawn my 890 jump or whatever, the box is kind of like a lower priority, so they took ages, and it was just a really bad player experience, so we turned them off for the time being. But when performance at landing zones is improved, and we have, you know, a bit more stability there, by all means, because, you know, the hopeful idea would be that you wake up in a landing zone and have things to do. So it makes it feel like that landing zone's alive and you've got things to do, you know, pick up this trash, deliver someone's pizza, things like that.
No, here, this next one's not a question either. It's just a statement. It says, auto loading times are broken.
Thanks.
Yes. Yeah, we know.
Cheers.
Sorry about that. No, the reason is because in order to make them more reflective of how we actually want them, we actually need some more development on them, and everybody is very busy. So it is a priority, and hopefully coming soon, TM. But we had to get something to work in a tier 0 so that we could at least get the hauling missions out, and we will be working on fixing that as soon as resources available to fix that. But it is actually worth noting, just from a time calculation point of view, that the times when calculating the reward on the hauling missions don't use the auto loading times, they use the manual loading times, except for the hull C, because that is always auto loading.
All right. Speaking of we're going to get into a little section here talking about effort versus reward and stuff. Well, as we talked about in SCL, as we talked about in ISC yesterday, there's lots of these missions that are chained to link from one location to another location to another location, stuff like this. This question is, why not simply use a big enormous C2 Hercules and chain all of the small missions? Why would we ever use a smaller medium ship at all?
From a mission design point, you can. Like, this isn't something I want to limit. I want you to choose, back in it was way ago, but back when we used to have the old delivery system where you could chain your own cargo missions together, that was exactly the point. Players could have this huge ship and take quite a lot of small jumps and then go, oh, this one goes to this location, and then I have a pickup from there and it goes back over here, and I can make my own round delivery loop from just reading contracts and understanding where everything is locality wise. I know that this outpost is right next to this outpost, so I'll drop off here and I'll do a quick hop, grab it, and make my time more efficient. But I'm sure Nick might have some other reasons as to why not. It's not the most efficient route. You're wasting your time.
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. Obviously, not only can you do it, but you definitely should be doing it. The question isn't so much whether you should or shouldn't be using a C2. Why would I ever use a small or a medium ship? Maybe that's all you have. Maybe you only have a small or a medium ship. Not everyone has C2s like Salty Mike. So if you only have a small or a medium ship, then we wanted to make sure that you still had access to the hauling gameplay. The other thing to bear in mind, of course, is that there are only so many of each type of mission in each part of space. So if you are in a very traffic part of space and there are more people who are doing hauling and they have smaller or medium ships, they may have taken all of those smaller media sized contracts. So there may be one or two you could grab, but you aren't going to be able to fill a whole C2 with them if you're in a heavily traffic part of space where everyone else is scrabbling over those same missions. And then, of course, there are the more economy based answers. So can you make an efficient delivery route? If you have to go back and forth and back and out of atmosphere and back up again, and you have to sometimes quantum, sometimes you're using hydrogen, fuel costs alone might make it not economically viable to do 8 different small missions when you could just do 2 medium or 2 large ones.
Also, depending on where you're going, a C2 is a really big target. If you're seeing a C2 fly between big commerce areas, people are going to start to figure out that that's what folks are doing, and those become bigger targets. And imagine having to losing not just one mission's worth of cargo, but 4 simultaneous missions worth of cargo to 4 different providers.
Absolutely, that is a really good point. I mean, imagine there is a trade lane, a small trade lane, which is traditionally nomads and maybe cutlasses or whatever hull A's are hauling this lane, and maybe there is a pirate lurking. If he sees a C2, or they see a C2, which one are they going to go for? The Titan or the C2? So there are considerations. Yeah. But by all means, take multiple missions. Be as efficient as you can.
And the rep hit to that, like if you do get caught out, like that's 4 missions that are gonna fail, and you get a rep hit times 4. Yeah, you might have a bit where it's like, right, I can't play cargo missions for the next hour or so.
Gotcha. All right, no, it's good. It's like anything else. There's options. What's Johnny doing? Hold on. Go back to Johnny.
He was Johnny. Come here. Jared's asking questions about you.
Oh.
I'm on
Hello?
SCL.
Oh, sorry. Right.
No, it's good. No, it's fine.
All right. So yeah.
I know SCL's Friday. It's Jared, it's unreliable, right? Yeah, he's doing it before. He's got I don't know.
I have a thing that I'm supposed to be doing on Friday. So we're here officially in the EVR phase here. We mentioned it first on SCL a couple weeks ago. It came up again on ISE yesterday. This is not a new concept, this effort versus reward. I would hesitate to would not hesitate to say that just about every video game that's ever been made involves some kind of effort versus reward calculation. Why is this new to us? Why are we talking about it now? And for the people who've chosen not to watch the other things, give us a cap of why it's important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is not proprietary tech. This is
No.
the way that you would approach how to balance the player's activities versus the reward that they should be given in any game. I mean, if Star Citizen were a traditional single-player game and we just had characters with levels, then it would be relatively easy to work out how much gold we should give you, depending whether you're a level 12 or 1150, 1170, or whatever it is. But because Star Citizen is not only an MMO of a very large scale, but we also have a mixture of structured missions and sandbox gameplay, and we don't have a traditional leveling system per se, then EVR, which is for people who didn't see the SCL or the ISC, it's effort versus reward. So it's basically time and difficulty on one side of the equation. How long it takes you to do something, how difficult it is to do it, will always be equivalent to the amount of reward that you will get for the time and the difficulty. So that could be UEC, that could be reputation, that could be the amount of loot in an area. And it allows us just to balance the universe, whether that's a mission or an area like a distribution center, or sandbox gameplay like piracy, for example. It's really important that people doing any kind of activity feel that they are receiving appropriate reward for the effort they're putting in. That's part of what makes the game fun. So Jared actually had a brilliant description of it in the last SCL, a par for the course. It's not the final number, it's a design discussion, and it creates an expectation for what the reward level should be for the player activity. And there are additional factors that we need to consider, like, for example, how do you handle the risk of players stealing the cargo that are given to them in the hauling missions? So when we're designing the hauling missions and the reward for that, we have to consider what to do about that. And that isn't directly a question that's answered by EVR. It's a question that has to be answered by design around the mission design. And all of these conversations happen with the mission designers and economy. We work really closely together so that we can apply it to all of the different behaviors, all the different activities across the game.
Part of the conversation that we have is Nick's tool will generate this value that we look at, and then on the design side, it's not exactly that we know the numbers and we know all of the economy, so we know how it fits and we know it balances. We can just go as simply as this doesn't feel like it's enough, or this feels like it might be too much. And then from there, we have a conversation on what part of it and why, and then we rebalance from that. And we've done multiple passes, like even since everyone saw the SCL, me and Nick have sat together a few times and we've gone over the sheet that balances every single mission, and sort of gone over how it feels and giving some more information, been like, right, this one's insane, right? Because it takes into account you'll get a crime stat. And then if you get a crime stat, inherently, you either go to prison and serve time off, or you have to go to Korea, do your hacking. People will come kill you, PvP. You've got all the AI there to battle against. And then because of that, it's like, right, well, every illegal mission baseline should have this value, and then anything that's extra gets put on top of it. So it's not like a cold and unfeeling system. It's something that is nurtured with love.
And like
And
anything.
the advantage,
Okay.
sorry.
Go ahead.
The advantage is that because it's a combination of maths and design, then we can make bespoke decisions as we need to, but fundamentally underneath it all, there is an algorithm. So in the future, when StarSim, when a system is making these decisions in a more algorithmic way, the entire system can be balanced at once and then tweaked and designed accordingly, which is a really important place for us to be when it comes to balancing an entire universe.
Yeah, I'm certain that there were people who looked at the information from the last SCL and did some maths and was like, it's going to take 107 days to earn an 890 jump at that kind of payout and stuff. I just want to reiterate again that every aspect of Star Citizen is still a work in progress. We're in alpha. We're going to try some stuff, and then we're going to try some other stuff, and we're going to try some other stuff. It's even Master Modes has some changes coming down the road, which we'll talk about in a bit. Don't get too excited. It's just more evolution. We try a thing, we listen, we try another thing. You can say a lot of things about Star Citizen. I don't think anybody can't say we're afraid of trying new things and afraid of taking a different direction after we try something. So I just want to caution you again, when you see these numbers, even when 324 goes out, and it's out, when you see those numbers on those days, that's the number then. And we will continue to review, we will continue to discuss, we will continue to iterate. So feedback always. Doom and gloom, the sky is falling, less helpful.
Yeah, and I mean on that point, to the hundreds of days point, if you were to take the numbers of the early missions, and let's say at the moment we're imagining those numbers are around the 20k per hour, for example, but like Jared says, these numbers change, and then you just did a straight times this by that, what's an 890 jump, then you're getting hundreds of days or whatever. Okay, but you're not going to be doing those missions. Yeah. Well, I mean, for starters, we're an MMO, so we're not like a 40-hour game that you finish in 3 weeks. But even so, this is not a linear scale. This is a curved scale. The whole point of it is, the further you climb up that scale, the more rapidly you accelerate, the more rapidly you make more. That's not only to reward players for their progression through the system, but it's also to account for the fact that an extremely difficult environment is going to require multiplayer. It's not going to be soloable. So it can't just be the case that I get this reward when I do an easy one and I get this reward when I do a difficult one. It needs to be one person gets this reward when they do an easy one, and 3 people get this reward when they do a hard one, split up between them. And you still progress that way. But it's not a straight line. It's quite a curve.
There you go. What do you say to, so obviously, those are those calculations. We talked a bit about how we calculate effort, and how hard it is in something. What about time? Time is another factor. I saw comments of people that said that were saying that you're not factoring all that time of walking through stations, of having to buy food and water, of having to set a destination on the map, the time it takes to open the hangar doors, the multiple times you die in the elevator. How are the time discussions going versus the effort?
I mean, for the first part, I know Nick's got his answer to it. Is in the real world, if you're a hauler, you have your vehicle and you get your petrol paid for. The time it takes you to get there is your own time, right? And if you take longer than necessary, it won't be worth because it's like, oh, this is meant to be a 2-hour haul, but instead I stopped off and had a meal, so it's actually a 4-hour. That's on you. For example, when I'm working here, they pay me from the second I'm sat at my desk to the time when I finished at my desk. They don't pay me for my walk in. They don't pay me for my stop at Mackie D's for me breakfast. Like, you know. So for me, it's there are bits we'll pull in to the payout that make sense, but there are also bits that just don't make sense. And I'm sure Nick will have more of a elegant.
Let's
No,
hope.
actually, no, sorry, Jared, go.
No, I said let's hope.
I mean, one big difference here is why I'm not elegant is I'm from the north and Nick's from the south.
I am not from the south. I was born in Scotland.
No, you wasn't.
I
You've
was.
not got
I was
the
born-
accent for it.
You know what?
You're too
Doesn't
soft.
don't you can't judge a person by their accent. That's a saying, right? Anyway, I was gonna actually reply this more from a design point of view as opposed to just a cold numbers point of view. Star Citizen, like any game, you can play it as a min-maxer. You can play it as I want to make absolutely the most I possibly can. I want the best reward. I want everything in every minute of every day. Why aren't I getting the best thing I possibly can? But we're building an immersive universe here. If you want to spend time walking around the station, buying your food, getting your burritos, doing your stuff, you shouldn't feel guilty that you're somehow not earning enough. You're going to take your missions, you're going to do your sandbox gameplay, you're going to get a fair reward for it because of EVR and because of the ongoing balance and because of the feedback and the fact that we work with the community to make this happen. Wow, JJ's loud. And and if you want to just chill and not earn money every second that you are playing the game because it's a game, go for it.
Elliot,
Yo.
what breakfast do you get at McDonald's?
It depends. It depends what day it is. I'll sometimes get like 2 sausage and egg McMuffins, and maybe a cheesy bacon flatbread. But it's only on certain days. I don't do it every time.
Do you put the hash brown in the sausage and egg McMuffin?
I don't like hash browns.
Yeah, but you put them in the sandwich. I don't like eating them alone either, but you put them in the sandwich. It dramatically changes the
Them
sandwich.
across McDonald's. I don't touch that. I've had a hash brown before in a sandwich, in one of those, but it's just not. It's not for me. I don't know. I know. Don't judge me. I mean, if you're gonna judge me for anything, it's the 2 double sausage and egg McMuffins. That's what I should be judged for.
I eat the 2 double sausage and muffins, which usually you get the meal, and then it comes with a hash brown, and then you add another hash brown, and then you just get the second one solo. You get the second one solo. It's actually like 40 cents or pence or whatever the heck you call the little ones here, cheaper than ordering 2 meals.
Yeah, it's pennies, pence.
Yeah.
All right, well, next time I'll get the hash browns and I'll bring them to you. You can have my hash browns.
Well, no, I can't have them anymore.
My God.
I'm not allowed to have sugar or carbs.
They go in the bin then.
And that's the show for this. No, I'm just kidding. We'll tack it on at the end. That wasn't lost time. That was me time. Nerfing mission payouts, e.g. salvage missions, and why do hauling missions pay so little compared to other things I can do to earn UEC?
Yeah, Nick. Why
So-
take the fun out of everything?
Isn't this Connor? Isn't this Connor who's going out and nerfing all the missions?
They're all one.
It's a combination. It's a
bubble
combination.
Just tell him
It's
it's
the
Connor.
whole of the
Designers.
economy team.
He's
we're
not
all
here. He can't
responsible.
defend himself. Just tell him it's Connor.
It's Connor. Yeah, it is Connor. It is literally. It's Connor for Jumptown. Connor for all commodities. It's Connor for everything.
I'm going to have to stick up for my esteemed colleague Connor here.
Go right
Connor
ahead.
is commodities. Connor is commodities and those kinds of things, and he knows exactly what he's doing. Thank you, Mr. Maltby. But,
I never said he didn't. I just said it was him. He's responsible.
Connor, we love you. You can get him when you come over.
Okay, so what do we have to say about nerfing of these mission payouts?
So we're in a strange situation right now where we have hundreds, in fact, we have thousands of missions, and in order to get them all into the balance with EVR, there's quite a substantial amount of manual work that needs to be done, and that is ongoing. So you're experiencing at the moment, some of the missions are in the new system in EVR, and some of the missions are still with the original designed rewards, which were kind of put in by whichever designer put those in at the time. When everything is rebalanced to EVR, then there will be a new
Reality.
normal, if you like. Yeah, a new reality. But it's not doom and gloom. You've just only seen certain parts of it. So, for example, the hard retrieve consignment missions. What are those called, Elliot? That's a great name in Dataforge.
Retrieve consignment. They are the missions where you go to a UGF and there's a box dispenser. You have to find a code from the body, enter it into a terminal, and it pumps up random commodities that you can sell. And you're looking for a confidential item that you then have to deliver. That's what those ones are. I can't remember the narrative name because it's got a few variants, but that's what you do in the mission.
Right. So the original reward on those was set by the designer, but they didn't perhaps understand quite how long those missions would take, because EVR is time and difficulty.
Throw me under the bus.
Okay. The original designer was only slightly out, but EVR takes into account the time, and so we have that data now, and so they're getting a bump. They're getting about a 50% bump, and the multi-3 and the multi-4 hauling missions, they're like up in the hundreds per hour. And the illegal missions, like Elliot was saying, because they are additionally complex with the crime stat, and the difficulty in those is always higher. So they're going to be have a bump. And those crazy, very, very low-paying missions, for example, the box delivery missions, they're getting a bump as well because they take a certain amount of time more than perhaps they originally thought. So it's not all doom and gloom, but it will be a new normal, and we will listen to all the feedback and balance everything so it's rewarding.
But it's not all happening in 324.
Absolutely not. No. This is very much ongoing work.
Can I ask a question I kind of feel like I have to ask?
Shoot.
Why not wait until every mission has been rebalanced to do this change? Why create the inequity for any period of time?
Yeah, that is a very fair question. Because the longer we waited to put this tech into any mission, we'd basically be adding to the old way of doing things instead of a backlog, instead of moving on to the new way. So the entire mission system is being refactored now, and EVR is a part of that refactor. So new stuff is coming out with EVR. Recent stuff is being addressed. Older stuff is going to be addressed.
Okay. Don't lower mission rewards and higher prices mean grind? Do we want grind?
Yes.
We want an MMO. We want gameplay. We want opportunity. We want years of Star Citizen. We don't want 40 to 60 hours. I got an 890 jump. I'm done. I'm going to go and play.
We want, like, you feel more connected to things that you've had to put more time into getting. There's other MMOs where you do raids that take absolutely hours, and the rewards you get from them feel even better because of the effort you put into it. And it is effort versus reward, right? The grind is a part of the effort, and your reward is how an item makes you feel. There's a really popular community event we did a while ago, which was kill 50 players and you get a Vandal mask. That Vandal mask means something to those players because they put in that time, they put in that effort. The ones who actually did it, not the ones who just had all their mates on a server and just killed them. Like the people who put in the grind, it means more to them. And it's the same thing that we've been going forward with some of our other events, where we've been giving you a set of armor that shows that you've done a bunch of stuff for it. It feels more rewarding to you as the player. And that's what a lot of MMOs do. You put in time, you put in effort, and you have something to show for it. I can't tell you how many times JJ sits next to me, has loaded up World of Warcraft and shown me all of his accounts.
I was going to say that's horse shit, because I never got Alistrazer. And so like everything that you're saying right now, I'm like, no, I never got Alistrazer. I never got that damn Firebird. So... that only works if I get it. if I don't get it.
You'll get it. You'll get it.
Eventually.
You just need to join the right people to boost you.
No. I had to leave that. That was a decade and a half was enough of that. I gave up. But yeah, I think the point is taken. One of the weird challenges that are unique to Star Citizen is that we're running a live environment in the middle of our development. So in the development of any game, many things will start easy and then become hard. Some things will start hard and become easy. It's this continuous sculpting and reverse sculpting. And most of this is done in secret. Most of this is done in private in any other game. By the time they open it up to the players, they're well along, and a lot of those big sweeping changes have been done. We have this continuous thing where, because we've run a live game environment since late 2015, November, December 2015, to this day here, these growing pains are experienced not just by us, which is normal, but by our players, which is not. So players who have played a long time, players who have played a tremendous amount, can get used to things being a certain way. And when we change, that almost never feels good. Whether it's a good change or it's not is a whole nother discussion. It's just when you've become used to something, when you've been accommodated to it, when you've decided you like it, and then it changes, that can cause consternation. We see that with everything from master modes to these economy changes and everything else between. That's not the same as saying that the feedback is not valid. I want to be real clear with that. Feedback's valid. Some of these changes are going to be too sweeping. Some of these cuts are going to be too much. Some of these bumps are going to be too much. Some of the things we did for master modes, like hover mode stuff, are going to be right where we want them, and some aren't. And we're going to keep tweaking and stuff like this. This is all of Star Citizen's game development. But it is a. Yeah, I'm sorry. Let me just finish this up here. But yeah, it is a. I see it from everybody, from good people, from the best people who struggle with this, and it's unfortunate, but it's normal. It's a part of our process here, and it comes part and parcel with running a live game environment in the middle of our development. So as always, we just encourage you to be patient with us, to help us. To keep testing, to keep giving us feedback. Like I said before, the doom and gloom stuff doesn't help so much. The, hey, this could be a more like this, and you would get this. That's the sweet stuff. So yeah, what do you want to say, Elliot?
Just something to add is, like, we're very much aware, obviously, as Jared says, with us being live service, and when we talk about being an MMO and grind and the reactions we get, we understand why for most of them. We're making a grindy environment in something that we constantly reset and wipe as it is currently, and that obviously isn't fun because you're not getting that long-term reward out of the effort you put in. But eventually, when we're closer to done, you will, because we'll have solidified a lot more of this. So therefore, the grind and the wipe will go, so that you can put in the effort and get the effort out. I understand right now that it won't be as fun to put, 80 hours into getting some up there in the hauling things, just to next patch find out that we need to wipe because of a bug or because we're balancing. It's part and parcel of just having to lay the tracks while we're still running the train down it.
Yeah. Although I want to add to what Elliot says, I've had a dozen conversations with Rich Tywer about this topic here, and I was like, why am I looking at Elliot? And we want to try to avoid as many wipes as possible. That's always the other thing. It's people don't want to invest time, people don't want to invest effort knowing this thing is going to wipe. It is our intention from this point forward to not wipe for anything or anything. That's not the same as saying that we're not going to. Now, I want to be real clear, because every time we say what we want to do and then something changes, people are like, CIG promised. No, we told you what we wanted to do. What we want to do from this point forward is we want to try to avoid any wipe. If we have to wipe from this point forward, it'll be something severe. It'll be something that we've all come together and said there's just no other way forward. And so that is still a possibility. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say it's not. But the intention from everyone at every single level is to do every single thing we can from this point forward to avoid any more wipes. So.
And of course, there are some other things which are very important pieces of functionality which we haven't got to yet, which will, like Elliot was saying, you'll be able to enjoy your progress and your status that you've earned over all those hours, and it will become even more meaningful with Death of a Spaceman, where it'll bring a bit more consequence, more meaning to decisions you make, and server meshing where we'll bring more players together interacting in the same place, which is going to bring a lot more life and collaboration to decisions you make. And StarSim in the background makes the universe dynamic around you. So at the moment, it might feel like it's a grind and it's Groundhog Day, but we're building for the future.
Elliot, you mentioned earlier about, as these missions get harder and harder and stuff, wanting to have more players, other people to help you. Let's talk about security. So it's while loading and unloading, and then while flying through trade lanes and stuff like this. Talk to me about security while loading and unloading. Does it just you have to get friends, or are there other things we're looking at here?
There'll be areas where you're safe and there'll be areas where you're not. Places that you have armistice zones and green zones, you'll be very safe in. But ones where you don't, you won't be. It's the intention, right? It's going to be an experience you have in Pyro when you're trying to do these sorts of missions. You're unprotected. Like if I go to an outpost that has a freight elevator that doesn't have a green zone, I need to be aware of it and I need to be ready to defend myself. Whether it's I leave people in the turrets of my ship while I load, whether I hire myself an escort by talking in chat and trying to get some people that I don't know or do know to help me out. There's meant to be some risk, and that risk is calculated when we do the reward. Like we know the location we're sending you to, we know all this sort of stuff, so that risk is inherently calculated. But no, I'm not here to hold everyone's hand through the unloading and loading process and make it all safe. There will be obviously things to aid you. Like I believe currently if you try to steal a box, say I call up a freight elevator with my cargo on and Nick, who I don't know, tries to take it off, they should get a crime. Like there'll be a way in the legal system for us to defend and to allow you to sort of enact justice yourself legally without consequence.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, obviously where you operate is important. Like there's the green zones and stuff, but even in a place like Pyro that doesn't have any green zones per se, it's you can align yourself with one of the factions there, and if you're aligned with the Citizens of Prosperity and you're doing your loading there, you'll have a certain amount of protection from the folks there. But if you're aligned with Citizens of Prosperity and you try to go to one of the headhunters trading posts and try to load up there, you're going to have a worse time and stuff like that. So it's these decisions are part and parcel of the process. And even without green zones, there will still be places for everyone based on your decisions, the decisions you make for your character to, okay, this is less risky and this is more risky. The choice is yours.
Yeah. It goes into, doing like in real life when they do shipping lanes. If they know that they're going to go through pirate-infested waters, there are mercenaries on board to defend against it, and that should be the same thing. Like the players will, if they want to do these missions, that at some point they'll have to adapt and understand that, oh, this location I know of because it doesn't have a green zone. That means that this portion of the mission I'm safe, but as soon as I'm getting close to this location, I need to be prepared for anything, right? And it will be something that comes with the player's knowledge, and then building their game knowledge is they'll understand that this location isn't safe for me. I need to make sure I've got protection.
And while we have some version of it now, with these new missions that are designed to link to go from this place to that place to that place, natural trade lanes are going to start to form.
Yep.
As server meshing comes online, and we begin to increase the number of players, and these natural trade lanes will start to harden and will start to solidify, and you'll start to see more and more ships. That will create a lot of interesting opportunities for players on both sides of the moral compass for protection and for piracy.
Absolutely. And in the long term, the very long term, when there is a system of a broader system of law across the various solar systems that is being managed, so the original quantum demonstration that Tony gave us shows how different action areas can be be spawned in response to different types of activity in an area. If there are a lot of pirates, then there's a security response. If there's and that could be player driven or it could be system driven.
Last few questions we have are kind of tangential to hauling missions, but the more other profession stuff. But let's see if we can squeeze them in. Elliot, for miners, will there be missions to sell what we mine to something like the distribution centers, so that they can then be hauled away with other hauling missions?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, this is the resource gathering type missions, so we will have missions that require them. It says, I know the question is, do miners, like you can steal those goods, you could buy them from somewhere it's really cheap and bring them over, or you can mine them. It's a choice that I want to give the players, so you can choose whatever gameplay you are interested in for this mission. But yeah, we're going to have missions where you have to bring resources to a location, and then naturally that location would then take those resources, produce something, and then another location would then consume what that location produces, and that makes the what do you call it, the hauling sort of mission. Currently, our hauling missions are very static. They're not reactive based on the location's inventory amount. That's something that is something more on the side of like StarSim, because that will keep track of sort of things like that, so it knows what to generate and what not.
This question just says, express delivery missions, please.
Yeah. Again, it goes with the type of cargo that you're hauling. We will also have like express hauling requests. So these will just be missions where, maybe a company's like, we've got an order on from another company to make this many sort of shield plating for this ship, but we've run out of, tungsten or something. We need a quick delivery of it so we can meet our quota and we don't get punished by violating our contract. These sorts of contracts that require you to bring something ASAP to a location will, and these ones will be possibly a bit more unique because they will skip the trade routes that we're setting up with this logistical network, because they are a demand right now. So there'll be a route which is your quickest route to take, rather than, from a distribution center that makes them to the LEO, then the LEO to the Lake Lagrange point, and the Lagrange point to the jump point. It will skip that flow, and it might just be get it from Pyro straight to the jump point, straight to the delivery location. So yes, we will have express hauling contracts eventually.
Why has it taken so long to get these hauling missions into game?
People are going after me today. We don't want to do a half job, right? For the longest time, our cargo just appeared on our ship, right? And then you take it from A to B, and we wanted more of an involved gameplay loop, so we chose to put them on the back burner until the tech was ready and focus on other things that we thought would be more fun. I play a lot of hauling games like Euro Truck Simulator and Death Stranding, so it's kind of something that I take like quite personally, that I want to ensure that I've got the best experience for the people who like the games that I play, because that for me wouldn't have been fun. So we wanted to wait for the fundamental tech that actually was how we want this system to work, so that we could do these sorts of missions.
Those are the two types of games: Euro Truck Simulator, Death Stranding. Everything else falls in between. What do freight elevators mean for the future of missions?
They mean quite a lot. It's, we can do a lot more now we have them. Now we have this sort of thought out structure of how we retrieve stuff. Like I can give you missions where you have to deliver vehicles. I can give you missions where you have to go to a freight elevator to collect a part. You know, maybe we do a repair mission, and it's like, well, we'll put a bunch of the repair stuff in the hangar, in this like location. You've got access to it. Go pick it up and then bring it to the mission to sort of deem it. I could do a mission where I make you do Tetris in an AI's hangar, where it's just, hey, load my ship up for me, and off you go, and you play Tetris. It gives me a lot of power.
A legally distinct version.
Yes, sorry.
The views and opinions of Elliot Maltby do not represent those of Cloud Imperium Games, Robert Space Industries, or its subsidiaries.
I just watched the Tetris movie. That's why it was in my head. It was good.
It was good.
It's good. So yeah, I can do stuff like that. It gives me more opportunities to do it. There could be a mission where it's like, gear up for a raid. We've put all the gear in this location. Call up freight elevator. Here's a box full of guns and masks and whatever else. You know, it unlocks a lot of possibilities for missions.
Nick, we only have time for one more question. It's not a question for you, but I want to. Are you there, Nick?
Oh yeah.
There.
Yeah.
I want to let you ask Elliot the question for me.
Yeah. So
ask him if he's ever going to fix the box missions.
So yeah, Elliot Maltby, lead mission designer at Cloud Imperium Games. On behalf of the community, I was just wondering, when are you going to fix box delivery missions? Oh, here he comes. Here he comes. Oh no. Okay, I thought you were going to invade my space.
There's no such thing as box delivery missions. They're not broken. Anyone who says so is lying. No, the hauling update and the freight elevator update that came in allowed me to, if anyone remembers that very fun ISE I did on the delivery system, all of that stuff is gone, or will be gone, because we're turning it into a coded based system, so it's more robust. It still allows us to put our hooks in it on the design side when we're building logic, so I can still request things and tell it to do things and manipulate it in ways I need to. But for simple missions where there's no extra gameplay that we start up in logic, it's a lot better if it's a coded system. So alongside the freight elevator missions, we have the ability now to do the box missions the same way. So instead of it using a logic system, which can sort of go a bit weird when a server's gone on a bit long or when it's at a low server frame rate, we can use more of a coded system, which makes it more stable. And it will be something that we look to refactor. I can't speak as to when it'll all be done, but we have started this work as it is. So yes, box missions. If everyone who wants to still pick up 3 boxes and take them to a delivery locker or to a shelf, you guys will still have something to do, because that is a part of the courier gameplay, and it is still something we want. It's just, I'll get him working eventually.
Fair enough. Elliot, Nick, thank you for taking the time out of your Wednesday to be here on the show. Yes, if it wasn't clear this whole time, up here in the corner, it tells you this has been a pre-recorded episode of Star Citizen Live. Again, Elliot, Nick, thank you for taking the time to answer the questions. Community, thank you for the time to submit the questions. We hope you found the show interesting and informative. Alpha 324 is currently available for testing on the Evocati or the PTU by the time this airs. We hope you get in there, help us kick the tires, light the fires, get this thing out, because we all really, really want it out. Not just cargo missions, not just Blockade Runner, which we talked about yesterday, a whole host of new changes to the personal persistent hangars, the freight elevators, basically just a complete overhaul of life in the verse for almost every just existing aspect of the game. So we're really excited for this in 324. We will be following up with Master of Chad's, Master of Cargo. He's probably Master of Chad's. I mean, I'm not going to say he's not. I'll ask him. We're following up with a Master of Cargo, Chad McKinney, on ISC in about 2 weeks. So not this next episode, the one after that. We'll basically, but I think we're going to do it. We're going to try. This isn't a promise either. This is one of the things we're going to try. We're going to try to do a Calling All Chads. I'm inventing that right now. We're trying to call it. We're just going to put a bunch of these questions to Chad and have him address all of your concerns and find out what has changed, what's still the same, how it works for cargo and all these things in 324. That'll be ISC in 2 weeks, where we can also show you all these things working, which is why it'll be different than in SCL. SCL will be off next week. It's a scheduled hiatus in the show. We'll be back the following week. And then next week on ISC, a very special episode, an episode I've waited to do for a long time, with Alpha 4.0 approaching. It's time, we're calling this Inside Star Citizen Intro to Jump Points. It's basically everything you could possibly want to know about jump points. How they've changed since we've been talking about them forever, how they've evolved, how they're going to work in 4.0. The visuals will still be work in progress, because they always are on Inside Star Citizen. But basically, this will be your one-stop shop for everything you want to know about jump points. So check that out on ISC next week. But for SCL, I'm Jared. That was Elliot and Nick. That was Tom on the keys. That's Pete on the people talking. Thanks for watching, and yeah, tune in to ISC next week, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. He looks so small behind him.
How dare you? How dare you? What are you talking about?
All right, stop recording.